Welcome everybody to the very first episode of the Way of the Other Dragons podcast. Today we're gonna compare street violence to combat sports. Hope you enjoy. And with me we have Tapa. Say hi, Tapa.
Hello, everyone.
On the other side we have Ricky Spanish.
Hello, everybody.
And we have Amy.
Hi, everyone.
So who wants to start off with the definition for either combat sports or street violence?
You guys want me to go, since I just spent like a week on this subject?
That would be the most accurate description of street.
So, you want us to give our opinion on what it means?
Yeah.
So for me, generally, sport fighting is a conversation. You want to see who the better fighter is. Street violence, when I talk about street violence, I'm not talking about what Rory Miller calls monkey dancing. I'm not talking about consensual violence. I'm not talking about the "what are you looking at" type thing. I'm talking about a mugger, a rapist, somebody just not talking about non-consensual violence. So with that kind of violence, the person who's perpetrating the violence, they're looking at the other person as prey. They don't want to see who the better fighter is. They want your stuff. They want your money, they want your body, or they want your life. So it's a completely different dynamic. In sport fighting, it's a conversation. You're unconsciously going to go back and forth. You're unconsciously going to give the person a turn, even if you think you're not. You're also unconsciously not going to hurt them too badly. But in street violence, they don't see you as a person. The threat doesn't see you as a person. They see you as a resource or as a plaything. And that's a completely different dynamic altogether. That's my definition, or that's my take on it.
On the side of street violence, I have nothing to add.
What about you, Tapa? Anything to add?
No, she put it quite nicely. I mean, everybody thinks that street violence is just gonna be like a bunch of people fighting together. No, that's not street violence. That's a simple, to people whose ego is way too big to admit that the other one might be better than them. But the way Amy put it, that street violence, it's not a conversation. The mugger wants to rob you. She put it very nicely. And sports fighting, it's like, fighting under a set of rules where you know that you won't be as grievously hurt as compared to street. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
The other thing I want to add about the mugger wants to rob you or whatever is they want to do it without getting caught, and that includes not getting injured. I mean, they can't risk getting injured and going to the hospital or whatever, and they can't risk doing anything. They don't want to leave evidence behind, so they want to take you out just as quickly as possible. They're not interested in seeing what your fighting skills are. They want to take you out, take your stuff, and get out of there as safely as possible for them. And going back to a predator, when the lion attacks the gazelle, the lion doesn't care he's not looking to see what a good fighter the gazelle is. The lion wants to eat. And it's the same predator mentality with people who look at their victim as a resource or as a plaything. They're not interested in saying what your fighting skills are. They want your stuff, or they want to play with you. And by play, I mean in like a psychopathic, sadistic way. We don't have to really go there that much, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I'd like to add
Obviously, that comes into play.
the criminal doesn't want to fight you. He wants to hurt you or steal your stuff or anything. If you only train in things like sparring matches or anything, and you want the criminal to play your game, you will fail very badly because he doesn't want to play your fighting game.
And also a sparring match, you agreed in a time and place. And a criminal, it's their time and place, not yours. And they're not likely to choose you when you're ready. They're going to choose you when you're distracted, when you're feeling bad. Nobody can be 100% of the time. So it's that moment that you're down and that you normally have a high level situational awareness, that moment that you let it down because whatever reason you're not feeling well, that's the moment that they're going to choose you. So by the time you realize you're in a fight, you're already down. You're already taking damage.
That's right.
And this is actually something that I was working on just the other day at Violence Dynamics, trying to have a flinch response that's damaging, because the flinch is faster than the brain can think, and it's faster than you can get adrenalized. So if a stimulus happens, I respond, and then my brain can catch up and figure out what's going on. But I've already responded before my brain can even figure it out.
In terms of flinch response, did they compare it to the flinch response thing from Tony Blauer? This spear thing? Anything like that? I can't really remember.
Yeah, I can't really remember. I'm not familiar with what you're talking about. Sorry.
Yeah, there was a guy from the US who claims to have this reptile brain use the flinch response to have something like a knife hand from karate too.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah. That's what we're kind of doing before the human mind or the monkey mind can respond. The lizard brain, as we call it, in biodie speak, that would respond as soon as there's a stimulus. You respond, and after your brain catches up to what just happened, which would take a second or so. Now you can start applying technique if you don't freeze. I mean, it's so complicated. But the thing you have to keep in mind is you didn't choose the time and place. It was chosen for you. The violence was heaped upon you. And it's going to take you at least a second to even figure out what's going on, by which time you're already down. By the time you're in the fight, you're already down. So that's why we have, to condition the flinch response, that when something happens before your brain can keep up, can figure it out, you've already responded. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to refer to. That was this Tony Blauer was speaking about.
It sounds like the same thing.
Yeah, it's about the same topic. I mean, let me pull up a clip, and then on this part, you cut the audio and then put in a clip of street fighting and sports fighting, and then I pretend like I did it. And then we go back to the conversation.
That was such a cool clip.
Yeah, you see in that previous example that we just saw in that short clip. I mean, it complements each other sometimes. Learning a little bit of sport, a little bit of more savage self-defense, because you do need to eventually learn how to fight. But it does have like its principles a little bit different. One does focus on sportsmanship and making sure that the other person is on your level. So whatever advantage they had like a week before the fight, all of a sudden they're at your level again. While on the street, Um, you might need to be a little bit more vicious and aggressive due to the fact that the other person is going to pick on you, not because you're on their level, but because they think they're better than you. So instead of just boxing you out, they'll probably just
Yeah,
stab you or just be overall bigger than you.
yeah, absolutely. They've chosen you as a victim because they believe they can take you easily and you're not going to inflict damage on them. And so, yeah, that's absolutely right. They're they're not going to choose somebody in their weight class. They're going to choose somebody um, that they feel is below them and won't give them a fight. That actually gives a little bit of an advantage to the smaller person who actually can fight, um, because although this guy who attacked me would probably beat me in the ring, that's not what he wants. He wants to take me out, and if I make him winning, him beating me, um, if I make the price for that too high to pay, he's going to leave. He's going to find something else to do. So I don't actually have to be the better fighter than he is, at least not in a sports sense. I just have to make him want to go away. And if I inflict a lot of damage on him as I do that, well, he shouldn't have attacked me. But I tell that a lot to women who are scared of fighting. And it's like, you don't have to actually beat the guy. You just have to make his price of victory higher than what he wants to pay. And that gives them a lot of confidence that maybe they actually can fight back.
You don't have to take the mugger or whatever he is at that moment. You don't have to take him out.
Well, that depends on their level of determination. I mean, if they need the drugs that badly and they want your money because they really have to have the drugs that badly, or if they're a predator and they really want to play with you that badly, you're in trouble. But
Yeah, sure. As you said, you have to sell you at the highest price possible.
Yeah. But for a lot of criminals, they chose you because they want just take whatever it is you have quickly and easily and get out of there. And if you start making that price too high, the higher than they want to pay, then they're going to leave. So there's no guarantees in this. I mean, it's the most honest answer to any self-defense question is, well, it depends. But
Yeah.
which is honest, but it's frustrating. But most of the time,
saying it depends wouldn't fit the podcast, so we
right, and it doesn't make for any kind of discussion. So there's no guarantees, and I can't say I guarantee that if you just fight back and make the price higher than they want to pay, they're going to leave. They might be really determined. They might really want you no matter what.
Tata, are you there?
Yeah, I can. I was just listening, so I was thinking about the things she was saying because that it makes, I mean, a lot of sense because I mean, it's not a surefire way of getting out of violence always, but setting the price high is obviously a big hindrance, and that's how you really need them because you see, I was watching a few videos of people trying. I mean, people trying to rob like on camera. So there was this incident I saw that a bike came from behind a lady, and it was pretty evident they were trying to pull off a purse snatching, but the lady she was, I don't know, but aware somehow that they're gonna try and grab her purse. So what she did is that she was walking by a park which had a really high fence. She just took off her bags and then flung them up out inside the park, which would be hard to access from there. And the attackers, I mean, there were two of them. One of them was driving, the other was on the back seat, and he just got down, tried to snatch her purse, saw that he couldn't, and he just got back up on the bike and they sped away. So she did not win the fight per se. She did not beat the attackers. She did not take them down or get them in custody, but she walked away from a fight, and
That's awesome.
that's because she made it like evident to them that for them to get her purse, they're gonna have to work harder than they would like to, and they're gonna have to take more risks than they would like to. So yeah, it totally makes sense what Amy just said.
That's an awesome example. I love that.
I mean, yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, being a criminal is still a quote unquote career choice. So they have to make the educated guess of how much am I going to risk and what am I going to get.
Yeah, it's simple economics.
It is, and this is an exercise that I've gone through on these seminars, and that Rory Miller does, the logic of violence, and he goes through all this, and he gives us a task of you have to steal $400, and you need to not get hurt, not get caught. How are you going to do it? And then he gives us time to think about it and plan the crime, explain the crime. This is how we're going to do it. And then the next step is you have to figure out how to defend against your own crime. And it's
Oh,
a really
that's
good.
easy. Just like work at McDonald's for 2 weeks and you're good.
No, you have to steal $400 in one day, or you have to make $400 in one day. So how are you going to steal it? Who are you going to steal it from? Where are they? I mean, you have to plan it down to the details, and if applicable, act it out, and then solve your crime. Figure out how to defend against it. So it's a really good mental exercise.
Yeah, it sounds like very interesting idea to plan your crime and then solve your own one.
Yeah, because you kind of have to end on a victory. We can't just let the bad guys win. So, so yeah, he wants us to figure out how to teach a defense against our own crime.
Are you sure this isn't like some intricate plot to like see who can come up with the best like, you know, crime?
Yeah, there's some have been truly frightening, and I've actually one of the crimes is so frightening that I went. There's only one defense against it, and that's a certain kind of knife, and I went out and bought it immediately. It was that horrifying.
Amy, you were talking about this. This exercise that you did that you have to make $400 by stealing or something.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have a question about this. I mean, how effective do you think it would be in a real life scenario, this training? Because, you know, right now you know that someone might try to steal from you, and everyone else also knows that you might try to steal from them. So it's like people are already aware that what's gonna happen, but in real life scenarios, you don't know. You might be like walking to the store one day and suddenly someone decides to rob you. So how does that translate this training into the real world scenario? How does it translate?
I think, in my opinion, that it translates in teaching the students that either you're gonna give up $400 or you better figure out a way to not die for those $400 rather
And that's a
than
really sorry. I know I've been talking a lot on this, but I just spent a whole week on this. But I mean, that's a really good question because one of my senseis um, defended himself against a mugging, and he said the amount of paperwork he had to go through to prove that it was legitimate self-defense was so arduous, it wasn't worth it. He said it would have been easier just to give the guy his wallet and replace anything in it. And he said if that happens again, he's not going to fight back. He's just going to give it up because it's easier. And as you guys know, I train with a lot of really high-ranking black belts, and pretty much single one of them have said that they would give up their wallet rather than fight over it. Even though they know they can take the guy, even though these are really high-ranking black belts who are in very good shape, even though they know that they could probably beat whoever would try to mug them, it's not worth it. They would rather just give the guy the wallet and go replace everything in it. So there's an ethical question there as well. I mean, why would you fight over money? For me as a woman, there's the additional thing of, is this robbery an interview to a worse crime? is this guy thinking, well, if she's going to give me her purse that easily, what else is she going to give me? So I had that other dimension, but almost every high-ranking black belt that I know, that I train with regularly, has said that they would not fight over their wallet. They would give it up. It's just not worth the violence.
And to be fair, like in modern times, to carry over $400 is like unnecessary.
Yeah, that's true.
What about you, Tapa? Would you fight for $400 or would you put all your money in the bank, carry a card, let them take it, and then just cancel it like 5 minutes later?
Obviously, carrying a card is way more, smarter. But over here where I live, it's not really, how do you say it? It's not a trend. Like cards are not a trend. The reason is there are like credit cards here, but the problem is not many stores accept them. Unless it's like a big retail store, you're gonna have a hard time carrying a card. So you do have to carry some cash around. Not much, but some. Maybe not $400, but you have to carry something.
Okay, let's.
I was thinking about that. Go ahead.
We were grinding to a halt. So from here, let's talk about the differences in mindsets, like training for
Should be more
street violence
specific.
or more specific. Okay, um, when you train to win tournaments, you train in a certain way, and you oh my, I hate English. You're
Yeah, I
trying to
think what he's trying to say is how like it's a different mindset when you're fighting someone in the cage, and you know that at the worst you might have to go through a few broken knuckles or bones, but in the street, the least could be your death. So how does that? How is it different in what's going on in your mind when you're in both the scenarios?
Yeah, and thank you, Tapa. And the idea, if you working for fighting a specific person in a match fight, you watch his videos, his previous fights, maybe try to get some impressions of how he trains to exactly explore his weaknesses. And you are very focused on one single person. That is a very different thing than trying to learn to deal with everything weird which can come up outside of the ring.
Okay, I think I
Hold
understand
on,
the
hold on, hold on,
question.
hold on. Just edit this bit out, okay? Later, Tim. Robert says he can join now, so should we call him in?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
While we're waiting for him, do you want me to talk a little bit about mentality of self-defense, or should we just wait for him to come in?
Depends on how quick he is.
Yeah, because
We're
he's
waiting
saying
for
he's
you.
doing it right now, but you know.
Yeah, it took me a few minutes to get in.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time, but it's great. I mean, he's joining mid conversation. It's almost like the professionals, like doing some talk show.
What was that?
So it's like the main difference that I see, like in terms of training methodologies, not talking about the top level athletes, of course, because they're something else. It's like in normal sports, combat sports, and the non sports aspect of combat is speed. like the non-sports ones seem to be more focused on let's get in there, get something done, and finish it as quickly as possible. While the sports version of it seem to be like they have the same idea of like I'm gonna try to knock you out quick, but they don't have that urgency. Like for example, we can see somebody like Mike Tyson that would just rush people and try to take them out as
Hmm.
quickly as possible. But then we also see every single one of his opponents saying, I can outbox him. It's okay. I can keep the pace and then just outbox him. But then Mike Tyson would just rush in and take them out. And that's like a difference that I see. Like for example, in MMA, I know a lot of amateur fighters that are willing to step on the cage, hear that bell go, and then just walk around for a little bit, throw a couple jabs, feel it out, and then once they're comfortable with the timing, then they'll go for the big stuff, what they feel that's gonna give them a knockout. But they still got those couple minutes. There's also other training systems where traditionally when they fight, ring fighting, sometimes they use the whole first round just to feel each other out, just to see like, okay, let's see how's your kick, how's your punch, how's your defense, that sort of stuff. While the people that train more for like necessity, such as like a bodyguard or whoever, they seem to train in a more urgent manner, as in like you don't got those 3 minutes to see if the other person is gonna
Yeah,
punch faster than you. You
yeah,
you
you
have
totally
like
don't
two,
have
three
that.
punches, and hopefully that's you're done by then.
Yeah, 3 seconds
Yeah,
compared to 3 minutes.
Part of the mentality, if when you're the defender, and especially if you're a smaller person like I am, is I mean, depending, you need to get into the predator mentality. This guy had the misfortune of picking on me. I'm going to make him pay, and that's actually what saved me in pretty much every real life violent situation that I was in. Is I got pissed. How dare this guy attack me, a small woman? I'm going to make him pay for that bad choice, and I did. In a ring, they totally could have beat me, but we're not in a ring, and I don't care that he's the better fighter. I'm going to make him pay for his bad choice of attacking me. And if the situation is really dire, the mentality that seems to be the most successful is, again, I'm going to make them pay. I accept your death, and this actually kind of goes to the samurai thing, and this works for self-defense, street violence as well. Okay, fine, I'm going to die. This guy's going to kill me, but I'm going to make him pay for that, and I'm going to get his DNA under my fingernails. I'm going to get it in my stomach, and the cops are going to catch him, and I'm going to make him pay. That mentality of accepting your death and I'm going to make him pay actually is more successful than I'm going to win or I'm going to live. And I
That's
can't
hard.
remember. Yeah, but I can't remember what that term is that the samurai used going into battle. They're walking into the battlefield accepting that they're deaf, and that frees them up to win. That frees them up to live. But you have to accept your death, and that works in real life too. Like versus in if you're being attacked, if it's a really dire situation too. Okay, fine, this guy's going to kill me, but I'm going to make him pay for it, and that actually works better in helping you survive.
Amy, have you heard the saying, you have to be more brutal and violent than your attacker?
Yeah, you have. That's one thing that we were working on last week at Viadai was getting into the predator mentality, and I was reading something right before I left, so this went into the book I was reading right before I went on the trip was that small people shouldn't be taught to fight. We should not be taught to fight. We should be taught to be predators because that fighting mentality. I mean, I'm a small woman. That fighting mentality. I can't fight a larger man. I can hunt him. I can take him out, but I can't fight him. So again, getting to that mentality. This guy attacked me. I'm going to make him pay. I'm going to hunt him down. I'm going to keep the pressure on him. And that's, I don't know if Robert is here yet, but some of the things he was talking about that they were doing in Texas the past few days were some of the same things that we were doing in the self-defense training. of keeping the pressure on, keep connected, things like that. Be sticky.
What do you mean by
Oh, that's what sticky hands means. Oh, I had a terrible misconception with it.
I was going in the same direction. So there's
We-
no
we were-
link between keeping the pressure on and having or using this sticky hand stuff.
We were actually being sticky from the dead angle. So we were trying to get behind on the attack came in, and we got behind onto the attacker's right shoulder, assuming most people are right-handed, and then from there being sticky and moving them. And when you're connected to them, you can feel what they're going to try to do. And if you're well connected, as they turn to try to face you, you can turn with them and make sure that they don't face you, and you keep that dead angle.
Okay, cool.
It was really cool. Oh, one thing I want to say, going back to something I said a few minutes ago, that for a lot of times for women's self-defense, you just have to make the price of their price of victory higher than they want to pay. A statistic that I've seen a lot is women who fight back against men who attack them win something like 70 to 80% of the time. That is huge. That is amazing. And in the ring, yeah, that man is probably going to beat us, but this isn't the ring. This is real life, and what they're doing is making the price of victory higher than they want to pay. In that same thing that I read for that statistic, because a lot of times they say that if you fight back, it's going to be more violent. Oh God, I can't remember the stat anymore. Something like 15% of the victims felt like fighting back made it worse, which is bad for those victims, but those are pretty good odds overall. You haven't.
Yeah, I read somewhere or that people don't want to fight back because they feel like sort of like when you're arguing with somebody and everybody starts yelling, they feel like if they fight back, the other person's gonna get more and more angry and just do it worse and worse without taking into consideration that the person is gonna do the worst thing possible from the beginning already. So
Right.
fighting back only, makes it better on them instead of worse.
Yeah, and that's something that women are told a lot of the time. If we get attacked, don't fight back. We're just going to make him angrier. Just let him do whatever he's going to do. And most of the time, that's not true. Some of the time, it is. And I mean, I've talked with women who are rape survivors and said that they were willing to fight back, but they read the situation and thought it wasn't a good idea in that situation. And I totally believe their judgment. I'm not going to say that they were wrong. I wasn't there. But I don't want to blame people because I do totally trust people's judgment, but I don't trust the judgment of society that tells you don't ever fight back. Read the situation. If you feel it's in your best interest to fight back, fight back. If you feel that the situation is too dire and you shouldn't, don't. Or if you feel like I'm not going to fight over my material things, then don't. But I think people should know that at least for women's self-defense, the stats, if you're able to fight back and you read the situation that it's a good idea, you're really likely to win. 75% is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we had, I worked years ago at a rehab for cardiovascular problems, neurological problems, and so on. And they were offering a seminar on self-defense, especially for medical staff. And
that's really good.
It sounded like being pretty good, but it was the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen being taught to people for self-defense.
Whoa, sir, language.
There's a lady present.
We are, yeah, we're still explicit, aren't we? So they taught the girls, mainly girls from nursings, they taught them, if somebody chokes you, don't try to hit him, don't try to kick him. That will hurt you. or if somebody was being psychotic using a knife, yes, just say stop. And if he doesn't stop, you are not allowed to hurt him because he is your client.
Two questions. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I used to work with developmentally disabled adults, and so part of my training is how to control somebody without hurting them, and that's hard, and I've done it. Not against a knife. That's insane. But okay, they said that if somebody's trying to choke you, don't kick them. Did they give them an option, or did they say, "Yeah, let the guy choke you out"?
The options presented were the worst idea of bad jiu-jitsu I've ever seen.
Because
Wow.
there's some escapes from chokes, that jiu-jitsu has, for example. And maybe for somebody that hasn't trained in them from far away, it looks kind of weird because it's too smooth or whatever. But it does actually work. That's why I think there's that curiosity of like maybe they were told don't hit him, but probably the escape from the choke was proper.
Yeah, I slightly pressure tested these techniques, so I just closed my hands firm around their neck without choking them, and nobody was able to break free. Stuff was real bad jiu-jitsu.
Now here's the important question. Is that because the technique to escape the choke wasn't taught properly, or is it because you're just way too strong?
I have a third option there.
Okay.
Maybe he's strong. Maybe it was taught properly. Can you really learn it in 10 to 20 minutes? I mean, maybe the medical personnel had months to learn this. Maybe it would work. But if you only have like an afternoon to teach self-defense techniques, should you really be teaching techniques that take months to be able to do effectively?
And we spent like 5 minutes on each technique, so there wasn't anything they could take away from that.
And I want to say that for the people that say techniques shouldn't take 3 months to learn, that makes sense if you like do the system. Like if you do judo or BJJ, okay, it makes sense that the technique shouldn't take 3 months. But if you don't do that and you're a normal person,
right,
then each technique is going to take a long time to learn.
Right. So should that even be taught in a self-defense class? No.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Things like awareness and de-escalation are the things you can scratch on in an afternoon or maybe 1 or 2 day seminars, but technical stuff, you have to do it on a daily basis.
Plus, another thing that also matters is the ability to learn something which differs from individual to individual. Someone might be able to learn it in 5 minutes, and some might require more time. And the seminars which you're saying is like, when you're learning in a dojo, your, like you say, your shifu or instructor, he knows how much you can learn, and that's the exact amount he'll give you to learn. But these seminars, they're like strangers who will teach you a standardized technique, and they don't know how much you can learn. So yeah, it's not always a surefire way of learning things.
Well, in the seminar that I just came from, the violence dynamics, they actually don't teach technique; they teach principles. And this works both. You're pulling somebody off the street that has no fighting experience whatsoever, and to some degree, a technique is a vehicle to a principle. But if you teach somebody technique and it fails them, then they have no place to go. If you teach them a basic principle, they can think on their feet better. For what I was doing, I mean, a room full of martial artists, all different styles. The principle-based approach works not only for that, but also because we all have our own styles, our own way of doing things. Here's the principle. Now we go apply it to what we're already doing to make what we're doing better. But I have a guy friend that I sometimes help teach women self-defense. And I mean, these are women who have, off the street, no training. They were interested in training. They would join a dojo, and I actively encourage them to do so, especially if they enjoyed this class. But he doesn't teach them. He's also a student of Rory Miller, so he doesn't really teach them technique as much as he just teaches them principle. This is the principle. This is how you use leverage. This is how you use your hips. This is how you target the face. And there's a little bit of technique as a vehicle to the principle, but again, if you teach the principle, it helps them think on their feet. And what I was thinking about Chokes is he does go into ground fighting. There is no way anybody's going to be an effective ground fighter and in just an hour and a half self-defense class. And so hearing them say, don't, if somebody's choking you, don't fight back, try to escape. Maybe the escapes do work if you're a martial artist and practice that system, but thinking of telling somebody to do that in 5 minutes is like, no.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And also, like you said that the violence dynamics seminar, it focuses on teaching principles. So,
Yep.
like you said, principles and not techniques. So think about this. So when you're back from the seminar, you remember the principles, and you can tell your sensei about them. And him being, a lot more experienced, he can teach you the technique. And since he heard the principles from you, and then he can teach you the technique, and then you can keep practicing it until you get better. So that's a good way to try to teach someone something that might be useful for them. But
Yeah.
like
I was gonna say,
go ahead.
I was just going to agree with you real quick. I'm sorry. I know I'm talking a lot, but when I came back and I told my senseis, these are the principles that I learned. This is what the instructors specifically want me to work on between now and October when I go back. They loved it. They were really happy with what I learned. They were thrilled to help me. Good principle is good principle across the board, no matter what style you're doing. And so they were really thrilled with what I learned and how it's going to fit into our system and how I can go forward and become a better fighter and better defender.
Hey guys, this is Rob Darger here. I just barely joining in. Sorry,
Welcome, Rob.
Welcome.
Hey, thank
Hi,
you.
Robert.
I got stuck on the tarmac for 2 hours, and I just barely got back in, and I've been wanting to join in, and this topic is right up my alley because I am a firm believer in concepts and principles trumping technique. Because there's a quote. It's like you learn a technique. If you learn one technique, you know a technique. You learn a principle or a concept, you know 1,000 techniques. And
that is an awesome quote.
I was actually gonna say this I was actually exactly gonna say this. This is also something my shifu keeps saying all the time when he teaches us, that why I tell you the reason behind. Like, suppose he shows us how to jab, and after he's shown us the technique, he'll then go on to show where the jab is hitting, how the jab is hitting, what the jab is hitting, and also like how to move, and why do it. And that's the most important thing. Why I'm doing this? Why I'm turning my hip? Why I'm twisting my leg? So he says this, that if I teach you this principle behind this, suppose you are in a situation where you know how to jab, okay, but you don't know if the jab works there. So you try it doesn't work, and now you're gone. But if you know the principle, you can, like, theoretically you can make up a technique for yourself right there by assessing the situation, and if you know the principle, that's in your favor.
Rob, can I ask you to explain and define something, please? While you were coming on, I was talking about how some of the things that I was doing at Violence Dynamics were exactly the same as what you were doing the past few days, and talking about keeping the pressure on and being sticky. And we were talking a little bit about what being sticky means. And can you please define that and describe that?
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry, my phone was being worked for a second. Yeah, sure.
Did you hear the question?
I did. Yeah, I heard it all.
Okay.
That's a huge part of what I've been focusing on the last couple of days, actually, with
Yeah, that's what I
Jason
wanted to hear.
Malik and all those guys. And they are just, they take the sticking to a new level. I've been doing Wing Chun for 6 years on and off. One of the main concepts of Wing Chun is sticking. And, you can know, okay, I'm supposed to stick. And so when a limb comes, I intercept and I stay locked on it. But there's a difference in being able to say that and being able to do it.
Yeah.
And when with sticking, okay, so I was working with Sifu Bradford yesterday, and he's just unreal in his ability to stick. And so basically, if let's say, for instance, I get up my punches and I throw him anything, what he would do is you get your hands out there, and the second that those limbs connect, it's like, zoom, I'm stuck to you. And no matter, it doesn't matter if you throw your arm over to the side, down, up, you're just following. You're not giving pressure. It's a fine line between pushing and stopping. And it's really kind of it's more something you have to feel. But basically, the second I go to throw punches at him, and he has made contact with me and decided to stick, it's all of a sudden it's like I'm trying to punch underwater. There's nowhere I can sit there and throw all the power I want at him, and it's just like I'm punching a wet towel. It just doesn't. It just hangs on you, and you don't want to stay there. You want to stick. And then the moment the path is free to the target, you strike. Because ultimately, what do we want to do? We want to hit. We don't, there are people who get so caught up in sticking and all they do is just sit there and just stick to each other all day. And I mean, that's good for training, isolating that element of training. You need to, and that's another thing I've really learned this weekend from this is isolating specific parts of training, but don't make that what your training is about. So, there are some Wing Chun lineages where all they are about is disrupting structure. So they're Chi Saoing and they're just pushing and throwing the person all over the place. And same in Tai Chi, that's really common. They're all about just throwing people all over and controlling their structure, and that's great. But that can't be all you focus on. That is one element of the big picture. You need to be able to disrupt structure. You need to be able to stick. You need to be able to strike with speed and power, but I think a lot of different lineages focus on one element and just stick to that instead of seeing it as one part of their training. I don't know if that answered your question, because with sticking, it's really one of those things that you kind of almost have to feel to wrap your head around. And I've felt it a lot, but this weekend Bradford really isolated it and got me to where I was like, I feel like I have a whole new understanding of what sticking is.
That sounds awesome.
That was really good, man.
Yeah, I just basically wanted the Wing Chun guy to be the one to talk about sticky. I mean, I've done a little bit of sticky hands, but I'm not Wing Chun, so that's not my thing, my style. So I thought it would be best for you to talk about it, and that was really great. Thank you.
Well, I want to add a little bit more now that I think about it. So sticky hands is a platform, okay? It's not a way you fight. It's not. And people go, when are you ever going to use that in a fight? Well, it's not. You're not going to go in and start rolling, doing your Poon Sao in the middle of a fight like they do in Ip Man movies. I mean, that's just for show. It's a platform. It's a place of a common understanding of movements where you're basically you're equal. You've got Fuk Sao, Tan Sao, Bong Sao, and when you get into that Poon Sao roll, you are equally matched. Neither one is in a dominant position, but it's basically the moment of someone throws a punch, you make contact, both of your arms are now in contact with each other, and what are you going to do? And it's a platform from there where you can, in a controlled environment, try and find weaknesses in the other person's structure or shapes. So if your Tan Sao's too low, my Fuku Sao is just going to blast right into you. If your Tan Sao's too high, I can easily just drop my arm and go under and punch you in the stomach. If you drop your Bong Sao, you're going to get punched in the face. So it gives you a common ground to train and find holes in the other person's technique, to find weaknesses in the other person's structure. And then how that translates to actual fighting is when you sit there and train all these micro management of energy and holes in your technique, the minute a person throws a punch at you and you touch arms with them, you're like, I know what this energy feels like. I know where it's going.
Yeah.
And from there, I'm just going to, if it's not going anywhere, I'm going to redirect it out of the way and I'm going to smash your face, So it's just a platform, and people take it way too literally, as almost as if it's like a way of fighting, but it's not at all.
So I have two questions for you, if I may.
Go ahead.
And I know I've been dominating this conversation, but I just so the first question, you take them in either order. So what we were doing at Viodai, and I was describing as you were coming on, was we were the punch was coming in, or whatever the attack was, and we were getting to the person's dead angle and sticking and kind of using those sticky hand principles of feeling where they're going, and if they're going to try to turn to face us, because nobody wants to have their back to you, right? To feel that and stick to them and not let them do it. And then to also, with our body, move their body. And I was paired with a guy who was way bigger than I am, and using my hips and my structure, I was able to move him. So do you guys do anything like that at all? That's the first question. The second question is, since I've done sticky hands with people not from Wing Chun lineage, some of the things that we do is like actual throws. We'll stick, and then as soon as my sensei feels I'm a little bit off balance or my stance isn't good, then he'll just come and sweep me and throw me, which really kind of sucks, but if it happens. Do you guys do that too? Or is that just
Absolutely.
something that... Okay, good.
No, absolutely. If and there's different philosophies, and again, since it's a platform, there are different elements you train. Okay, so sometimes you might be doing Chi Sao, and you might be focusing on structure disruption. So if you're not structured, I just give you I give you energy towards your center, you're going to lose your balance, and it all goes to shit. And that might be, pardon my language, I'll try not to swear, but you lose your structure. That might be what you're working on in that situation. So like we may go to Chi Sao, hey, let's work on finding holes. We might work on okay, whenever your attack is let's say you go to punch at me and we're doing sticky hands, and I have redirected your punch to where there's no way it's going to hit me. At that point, you may as well just let go and I'll punch you. If you punch at me and I do like a Pak Sao, just to, a slapping hand to move it away from where it's going to actually hit me, why sit there and stick to it when I can just let go and hit you? That the forward intent there in Wing Chun, forward intention is so important. And that's what forward intent is that every minute that we are sitting there sticking, the minute that you are not stopping my hand from hitting you, it's coming to hit you. And it really creates this when you're on the receiving end of that, like with Bradford and Jason, it feels like an octopus is smothering you, because any second that you are not stopping their attack from coming, it just folds over you and just smothers you, and you're just constantly being hit from everywhere. And so there are different, and that's one way of doing Chi Sao. But what you were describing before in your first question, where let's say you did get them offline and to where their attacks flying off into nowhere. I can't remember the term you used, but I liked it. I knew what you meant, even though I've never heard
their
it.
dead angle. And
This
wasn't actually Chi Sao that we were doing, but it was using those principles, and they were saying be sticky.
Yeah,
They,
and,
they
and so
actually
by
use
dead
that
angle,
term.
I've never heard that term. So with dead angle, is that where it's like that attack is going off to nowhere, or what? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the dead angle. I guess that's more of an Aikido term. It's where they have no power. So in this context, I'm using it as you're behind them. They can't, especially if you're on like one of their shoulders, not behind them, directly behind them, but off at like a 45-degree angle.
Oh, okay.
There's not a you're outside of their power, and you're in a good position and they're in a bad position, and it's going to be hard for them to do anything to you unless they turn around and get into a good position.
Okay, yeah. So in my
Sorry,
training, we
Robin.
call that facing. Go ahead.
Amy, are you still sticking to your enemy when you're behind them or on the 45-degree angle?
Yeah. You really want to, and this is across styles that I've done. And this is also what we were working on at Viodai. You get to your dead angle and you stay close, because that way, if you're on their dead angle and you're far away, they can just turn and now they're facing you again. If you're at their dead angle and you're close, you're sticking to them. If they try to turn, you can jam them and stop them, or go with them. So as they're rotating, you're rotating too, and you're still on their dead angle.
Oh yeah, see, and that's that in Wing Chun we call it the principle of facing. Okay, if I'm face to face with the person, that is the least advantageous position I can be in, because they have they have 2 arms, 2 legs. I have 2 arms, 2 legs. At this point, when we're at a distance, if you sit there and exchange blows, you're basically rolling the dice. But the second you get off on the side, and now it is what we call a face to side, to where my face is facing their side, all of a sudden they have 1 arm and 1 leg, and I have 2 arms and 2 legs, and I am now in a very dominant position. The very best position you can be is face to back. If you're face to back, they're screwed. I mean, you can just kick the back of their knee and drop them down and stomp on their head, whatever the hell you want to do.
Is there a specific name for the face to back? Is it like modified 69?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, because they got the yin yang symbol, so I'm guessing it's like a 96 followed by some Chinese words.
I am not aware of any specific name for that technique, Enrique.
Okay, I'm just curious. I don't do Wing Chun, but it sounds kind of fun. Just curious.
Okay, back to serious transition here. Yeah, the thing that Rob was saying about the face aside, we have a similar thing too. And another thing which I'd like to add, except for that, like what he said, that 1 arm, 1 leg, and I have 2 arms and 2 legs, is also that your center line is facing him, so you have a dominant position, but his center line is totally off. So even if you push him, he's off balance.
Yes,
definitely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So footwork is really, really important and very underrated. People try and just muscle their way through, block, do all these crazy techniques, when a lot of times all you need to do is just change your position.
Yeah, not many people realize that footwork is like one of the most vital things in a fight.
To the overarching discussion.
Well, since everybody got quiet, I guess it's my turn.
Wait.
Yes,
Dude,
I agree.
are there any
However, I just call it looking for angles, because that's how it makes sense for me, because in Spanish gotta translate everything, so just sticking to one word sounds simpler. Like you say face the side or face the back, like I just think of it as finding an angle, because I expect that if I find the best position, whether it be on the side or the back, I expect the person to be fully aware that just happened, and in a split second they're about to change it. So
yes,
so
right.
I just consider it like a small angle that I just happen to get there, and then the other person's gonna do the exact same thing anyway. So that's how I express it, so that I can understand it more.
Yeah, angling is another term that a lot of people use. Just get the angle. And it's really crazy how much just changing even a couple degrees changes everything. Um, the other important point, and I think it's something Amy brought up, is what about when the person tries to recover? You get a superior angle. How do you keep your opponent from recovering?
Be
And
sticky.
be sticky is a good way to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were working on, and that's exactly the word that they were using. Be sticky, and I was like, I understand that concept. Again, I don't do Big Tongue, but I've done Sao, so I understand that concept. So I knew what he was talking about. Principles.
Yeah.
We're talking about principles versus technique. I understand the principle of being sticky. And that's something that I can apply, even though I don't do Wing Chun, I can still apply it to my Aikido and my Okinawan Kempo and my Jiu-Jitsu.
God, if we ever get together, Amy, I would love to show you some of what I learned this weekend, because
Awesome.
the exercises that Bradford showed me. Sorry, this dude's mowing his lawn. Anyway, the principles that Bradford showed me are, you don't have to be a Wing Chun person, because he, like I said, he isolated the concept of sticking to the point where you don't need to know the names of the techniques. You don't need to know the shapes, nothing. It was down just on a basic level of, it's this simple exercise, and I'll maybe even try to film how to do it, because it's something anyone could do.
Well, all I'm going to say is July 13th and 14th. I think you should come here.
I would love to. Yeah, I mean, you're only, 5 hours away? That's not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a big weekend. So,
what's going on that weekend?
Rory Miller is coming.
Oh, he's coming there?
Yeah, he's coming here to Boise, Idaho, if you can believe that.
Oh, shit. I'm coming.
Yeah, come on down.
That'd be awesome. Is he doing a conference, or what's he doing?
He's doing a seminar, a weekend seminar. It's going to be on principles. It's going to be his principles class, and he says it's what makes everything else better. Just the really basic principles to make whatever you're doing better.
I request videos.
Yeah, I'll shoot as many videos as I can, and I'll post them. And I've posted up all my Viadai videos onto my YouTube channel. I haven't gone through and finished editing all of the titles and descriptions and made sure they're all in correct order, but they are there. If you want to see what we're doing. I only did videos of the hard style stuff, not hard style, hard skills. I didn't shoot any of the lectures, because that's what the books are for, basically.
Hey, so I came in late. Is Tim in here?
I'm here.
Yeah, he's all the way at the bottom, but hasn't been talking for a while.
The reason I asked. So, what was the topic of this discussion that I missed out on?
Yeah, I was
Well,
just gonna
thank you,
say that.
sir. It's not like we've been talking about it for an entire week, but thank you.
I know. I'm sorry. I haven't even been on my phone. I haven't known what's been going on. I've been so busy.
How dare you have your own life outside of this little podcast?
Hey, I haven't been living my life. We trained from noon till 5 in the morning the first night.
That's so awesome.
10 until 4 in the morning the next night.
Yeah,
And
let me just stop you there. That's exactly my definition of living a life.
Okay, fair enough. I would have to agree. It was epic. I am definitely worn out now.
But you're still very
anyway,
hyped.
since we sidetracked a little bit, let's just get back to our main topic here. We already covered characteristics of street violence. Now let's go on to differ it from fighting sports.
What was it?
How
Yeah, I
street
missed that too.
violence is different from sports, the sports application.
Oh, okay.
I would like to start. Am I still being heard after all?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Cool.
This
Yeah,
is the part
yes.
where you say your opinion in that topic. You know, like what you
I'm
think
trying to.
separates them.
Um, what separates them the most is I think there are so many different versions of sports fighting, like the tag games or point fighting in karate or taekwondo, the light contact matches, the full contact matches in UFC, or what was it called, Kyokushin and Kudos and so on. So there's so many different flavors
Hello.
of sport fighting.
Yeah.
Oh, did Robert just you still here?
I'm here. No, that was Tim talking, but I'm here.
Oh, Tim's talking. I can't hear anything.
I'm done.
Can you repeat what
No,
you said, Tim?
Okay, I can. Sure. I said that the sports fighting offers very different flavors, like the kumite fighting, like in the Karate World
Is he
Championships.
talking right now?
Yeah, he is.
Um,
Oh, that's weird. My thingy is not putting any audio of his through.
yeah, we can all hear him. It's only Enrique who can't hear you, Tim.
Okay, sorry.
Give me a second. I'm gonna see if I can restart this.
Okay,
Sorry, Tim. Go ahead.
no So since problem. he's not here, I heard the question. I'll answer some of it, at least from my point of view. Yeah, cool. The difference, which I find like the most striking difference between sports fighting and this street violence is the factor of predictability. Is in sports fighting, I'm assessing my opponents, and I'm like, how do you say it? Like I know what's gonna happen even before it's happened, at least to some degrees. I don't know if I'm gonna win, but I know that he's gonna. If he's a if he's a striker, then he's gonna. I mean, think it like this: if he's a boxer, then he's gonna try boxing on me. If he's a kickboxer, then he's gonna try kicking on me. But in the street, I don't know. He might pull a gun on me. He might pull a knife on me, or he might just stick to like fighting, like striking with just his hands and feet. So that unpredictability of the street is what differs. I mean, it is what defines it the most, and that is like for me that's the biggest difference in sports fighting and street fighting. Yeah, the
You
predictability
know what's
is a
coming?
huge thing. You know what comes is also being set by the rules that you're fighting under in competitions or sports fighting.
Oh yeah, I mean, in the street, you don't know. A person might have a knife, they might have a gun, and if you fall down, they might come and stomp on your head, drop
Yeah.
an elbow on you, pick up a bat, pick up
In
a stick.
groups.
Groups of people, some other guy might come over and kick you in the side of the head. You know, there's all these unpredictable factors, and you don't know what the person's trained in. You don't know if they're completely untrained. You don't know if they're a psycho that wants to kill you, someone who's just trying to start a problem. You know.
Like those principles in Mexican judo.
What is Mexican judo?
Oh, it's like when you don't know if he has a knife or you don't know if he has a gun. But what how it's it?
Okay.
You don't know what he's gonna do.
Can I tell you one of the worst street fighting stories I've heard?
Sure, shoot.
And this is from a Wing Chun guy I used to know, and he had a friend that was mugged. The guy tried to mug him, and this guy was really skilled. I think he also did Wing Chun. I think they went to the same school, and extremely skilled fighter. Beat the crap out of the guy who tried to mug him, really bad, and he felt bad. that he used so much force. He didn't need to use that much force on just a low level street criminal. So he felt really bad that he beat the crap out of this guy. So he decided to help him up, and he reached out his hand to help him up. And as he pulled him up, the guy drew a knife and stabbed him in the stomach and killed him. And so I think that's one thing you have to remember in a street fight is it ain't over till it's over. It ain't over until you're completely safe.
God, that is crazy. Yeah, I mean,
I was also going to say this. Like, another factor is the fair play. 90% of the time, sports fighting is totally fair play. But street
You're a
fighting.
little bit muffled. I couldn't hear that.
Hello.
Yeah, what you said was a little bit muffled. I couldn't hear it.
Oh, I was saying that another thing. I mean, just before you said this, I was going to say this, but the story, it totally, emphasizes my point. Which I was going to say is that fair play is a thing in sports fighting. I mean, 90 to 95% of the time, it's fair play because you both are under the same set of rules. You're both prohibited and allowed to use the same things in the fight. But in the street, you don't know. You might beat up the guy and maybe feel bad and try to go help him, and that's when he tries to stab you, or maybe he shoots you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's not fair in the street. Nothing's gonna be fair. Nothing's gonna work like you want it to.
Something that just made me think of, if someone attacks you, let's say in the street, and it's unexpected and you're scared for your life, I think your physical behavior, the way you're going to react, will just be savage as hell. I mean, you're just going to, probably a lot of your techniques are going to fly out the window. I mean, a lot of pressure training and sports fighting is things that you train to stay calm under pressure, and all these things are really important to train. But I mean, if I'm with my wife and kids walking down an alley and some guy comes out or two guys come out and attack me, you go into this savage adrenaline rush. I will stomp your head, whatever stuff that if I'm sparring a guy or fighting a guy in a cage, it's kind of like, okay, let's go, let's see what techniques you got. You got a nice uppercut, whatever. But when you're in a real fight, it just becomes this adrenaline savage. Both people pretty much black out and just smash each other. And so it's hard to, in my mind, to compare the two because they're just so different. And a lot of people say, oh, well, Wing Chun, what are you going to do? The techniques are too deadly for the cage. Well, it's not about that. We focus more on that type of training to where it's like, if someone comes at me, I'm not going to sit there and trade blows with them. I'm going to go for their throat. I am going. If they lose structure, I'm going to sweep them and stomp their.
Yeah, I mean, not many see this, but they keep knocking Wing Chun that it's bad, it does not work in the cage and all that. But the thing is, if you don't go 100% with Wing Chun, it doesn't work. And if you go 100%, it's lethal. So that's the reason. That's one of the big reasons why it can't be used as much in the cage fight.
I think a big thing that makes people think stuff like, for example, oh, this is bullshit, that's the real stuff over there. It's because everything has its own set of marketing. And for example, in sports fighting, you get to see that people beat each other up, and you get to see, oh, that thing is working actively at the moment. And then you go on the street, and it's usually people that are supposedly untrained fighting people that are slightly trained. Obviously, the trained person has to win. But then there's also that part where they forget that sometimes those people that are fully trained are also in the street, taking advantage of people.
It's true. Yeah.
So like I don't knock like sports training because it does have you still gotta know how to punch, kick, receive a strike, and not just freak out. You still gotta stay as calm as possible, and then be able to throw it back. I mean, whether it's like, 2, 3 punches throwing back and forth, or it's just, you bite them in the throat and you're done. Irrelevant, but it still feels like people take the sports fighting too seriously because of that they're able to see it be applied and it works, and they forget that these people that go in the cage, they're professional athletes. Some of them quit, and some of them don't train that type of, I guess, they don't train that to go and get their ass kicked at a cage. They train it because they want to do something worse with it. So,
You know what? Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I was going to say that segues into a really important point that I want to make, because I'm not saying in any way, I mean, sports fighters, at the end of the day, they are a professional athlete. Their job is to beat the shit out of people in a cage in a professional capacity. They train it day and night if they're a pro. They train it under pressure. They train it against people who are trying to knock their head off. And those people know how to fight. I mean, at the end of the day, they know how to fight. For me, I'm not interested in that. I don't want to go in a cage and have someone try and knock my head off. So I think sports fighting is just that. If you want to be able to fight and beat an MMA fighter, you have to train like an MMA fighter. You have to train like a professional athlete.
Makes you being a professional MMA fighter a better person in the streets?
No, I don't. I'm not saying that.
I know some MMA fighters. I'm, in my real life, and they can street fight. I mean, I don't want to speak out of term, but I have witnesses to some of their fights in the street, and they can street fight. But I think that for a more casual person, and it's not always the same skill set. And I think was it you, Enrique, said that learning how to receive a punch, that is super important. And from a woman's self-defense point of view, on the one hand, I mean, we didn't grow up, women don't grow up fighting and roughhousing. We have that instinct. We want to do it. We're punished for it. Whereas boys are praised for roughhousing and taught the rules. Girls who try to roughhouse are punished for it in some way. So we don't grow up having been punched in the face. And the first time I ever got punched in the face, I was furious. And I looked at the guy and I said, "How dare you punch me in the face? What are you doing?" And he said, "Why did you punch me in the face?" And he said, "Because we're in a dojo and we're sparring." I'm like, "Oh yeah." I mean, duh. It was that disorienting. Versus a year later, and I told you guys the story about when my Sifu punched me in the face so hard that my face made his hand hurt. And this is an Iron Fist guy who breaks bricks, and he hit me in the face so hard that he complained my face hurt his hand. My reaction to him punching me in the face that hard was, well, I'm still standing up, so I'm going to take him down. And I did, and I submitted him. That was a really valuable year, going from how dare you punch me while we're sparring to my face ain't broken, I'm taking you down. I don't care that you're a bigger, stronger fighter, I'm taking you down because you punched me in the face. That is extremely valuable. But also from a women's self-defense point of view, since we don't get monkey danced and we get grabbed, I know women martial artists who are fantastic fighters who failed to defend themselves properly against a sexual assault because it's simply a different skill set.
That was the direction in which I was aiming to.
You were aiming toward that, or
not? You are not really able to transfer the skill set from the cage to the street because it's a totally different game.
Yeah, it's a different game. It's a different skill set, and especially from women's self-defense, because we don't get monkey danced, we don't get sparred. If you're great at sparring, you're great at that range, that fist or that reach, fist or legs. But that's not how we get attacked. We get grabbed.
Exactly.
And so grappling is what we really need to do.
Yeah, but I think it's dangerous that so many people mix this up they think the sparring skill set is transferable completely to non-consensual violence.
I personally believe that they do translate. It's just not like word for word. For example, if you train wrestling, that's not, free rules. It's very, very strict. But
Hmm.
you do the training and you get the principles down. Somebody in the street all of a sudden wants to tackle you because whatever reason, you're in a scuffle. You're a lot more comfortable with just not being thrown down on the floor, or you're able to do something because of that wrestling. Same
Yep.
for other systems that are like specifically combat. Like for example, boxing. It's fairly well known that boxers hit really, really hard to the point of where their hands need to be protected. So that does work on the street, but they do have to adapt it. Like they can't be playing around testing each other too much. When you're in the street, you just gotta go for the kill.
Yeah,
And
like
that's
Amy
another
said,
thing that I see with some traditional schools. Like they look at sports and they say, "Oh, well, that doesn't work on the street, so we're gonna do it this way." And then they forget that, like, okay, you're doing it different, but you still kind of have to aim it specifically at that goal of like finish the fight, not just train it and forget about the sparring, forget about the sport aspect, forget about student one being better than student two. Like eventually, those 10, 20 students have to be able to beat the shit out of each other. And some schools that are traditional, like sometimes they don't want to do that. While some schools that are sport, that's the whole point. Like from the day you're there, they're like, okay, you're kind of nothing right now, but in a couple years, you're gonna be the best if nobody else is left, or you know, you're gonna be a nobody, whatever. And then, like I said, traditional schools, it seems more like, okay, you 10 students are the white belts. You're gonna be the green belt. You're gonna be the black belt one day, and everybody wins. Instead of like, okay, you're all here. I expect all of you to eventually be better than everybody else that's already better than
like Amy said, this sports fighting, it translates into street fighting. I guess what Rob was trying to say was that uh, keeping up that mentality of fighting in the cage, that's what doesn't work in the street. I mean, of course, as some professional athlete who trains to kick ass, he will know how to defend himself on the street. But with the change in scenario, there also needs to be change in how he, approaches the situation. And another thing is that, like you said, right? Someone said, I can't remember who said it, but I think it was Rick said it. So that unless you're a top level professional athlete, the cage fighting isn't gonna help you in the street because and unless you're training to fight in the cage and it's like you want to defeat anyone in the cage, or it's only then that you can also put that to effect in the street. Unless you're like training yourself that hard, cage fighting techniques and cage fighting techniques and training, it's not gonna help in the street unless you're doing it to become the best.
One thing I was talking to my sensei about this morning, I was talking about all these young guys who are training to be the best and they're destroying their bodies in the process. And this is where me being smaller and older, I'm old. I'm changing my styles from hard styles that I did when I was younger to softer styles, looking forward to the day that I'm going to be a little old lady. I'm not a little lady yet. I'm not that old, but I'm looking ahead. And this is not something that martial arts and fighting is not something that I did when I was younger and then I quit. And it's not something I'm doing now that I'm still young enough to do it. And then when I get older, I'll quit. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And I told him that I made a decision this morning that my goal is I'm going to be a great fighter when I'm 65. That is when I intend. That's when I intend to peak. Is when I'm 65, and that I'm going to keep. I've always said this. I intend to keep fighting through my 70s, 80s, 90s if I live that long. I'm making decisions now to make sure that I can fight and defend myself when I'm a little old lady. I'm kind of at a sweet spot that I'm not in my middle age, that I'm not this young girl that people want to attack because I'm young and naive. I'm not a little old lady that people want to attack because I'm old and weak. I'm kind of in this nice sweet spot. I know that no woman is ever completely safe in our society, but I don't really feel threatened. I mean, I feel pretty safe that I'm not on very many people's target list. So what happens when I am a little old lady and I am on people's targets list? I need to be able to fight in a way that my body will be able to fight. And that's why I'm switching from the hard styles to the soft styles. And one thing we were talking about this whole past week at Violence Dynamics is fight in the body that you're in, because we all have different bodies, and a lot of the male instructors tend to be kind of big. There is a woman instructor who's small in my size, which is awesome for me. But fight the body that you're in, not the body that the instructors have. And I'm actually I'm honestly trying to teach myself how to fight and learn how to fight in the body that I'm going to have in 20 years when I am a little old lady. So my point to my sensei this morning was that all these young guys who want to be the best right now, that's awesome, that's great. But if they're destroying their bodies, what happens when they're old men? And now they're on somebody's target list. They're an old, somewhat disabled man, disabled because of the decisions that they're making now to fight too hard, to fight to the point of breaking. And especially if they are fighting for sport, maybe they should rethink some of their choices, and do they really want to fight to the point of breaking, or should they make a few decisions to just take better care of themselves? Maybe rest a little bit more, rest out their injuries more. I mean, I'm well known for fighting, keeping to train even when I have injuries, but I've learned how to do it safely. I mean, maybe they should do yoga or Tai Chi or something like that to help restore their body while they're still fighting in their prime. I mean, I started doing Tai Chi when I was doing hardstyle Kajikembo because my Sifu was concerned that I was destroying my body because I was training with the largest men in the school who were twice my size. And needless to say, I was getting the worst of it. And he's like, he pulled me aside and said, "That's great. That's awesome that, you're enjoying fighting and you're fighting them. You need to give your body some recovery time. Why don't you come do Tai Chi with me?" And that changed my life. And that changed my martial arts life. That changed my overall life. And I didn't stop doing the hardstyle Kajikembo. I just did the Tai Chi along with it so that my body could withstand the punishment I was giving it. That was a really long tangent.
No, I loved it. No, you're really good at articulating this kind of stuff, and it's good. It's interesting stuff. So that makes me think of the question. I've never understood. I mean, I understand hard style stuff, but I think people mistake soft for weak. Soft is not weak. No. I mean, like with Bradford, he will never block you hard. But if you think for a second that what he is doing is weak, your head's going to get knocked off. I mean, it's not weak. I mean, and let me ask you a question. How many?
Wait, before the question, Robert, do you prefer thin crust or regular crust pizza?
Deep dish, bro.
Yeah, thin crust, the crunchy one, or like just the regular nice fluffy pizza?
Hand tossed. I used to manage a Papa John's. I like to toss my pizza.
See, that's how I see soft and the hard style. Like at the end of the day, it's just what kind of crust you like. Everything else, it's still a goddamn pizza.
Well, except when you're getting older like I am.
You need to in the middle of the night. Thank you.
Now let me ask my question real quick to follow up on that. How many hard style or competitive fighters that are just brute force on force, how old do they usually quit training?
69.
No. 40 is an old ass fighter. If you're fighting a hard style, if you're fighting competitively brute force on force, 30 years old, you're starting to get out of there. And that's my point is it's like Amy was saying, it's not something you can maintain. You can't be going and smashing bone on bone. I'm stronger than you. I train harder than you. I go to the gym 7 days a week, and that eventually loses its capability. But like an example, and I know it's someone, or I don't know, but I don't think any of you have met him, and it doesn't matter. And you may have seen his videos, doesn't matter, but I have met him. Samuel Kwok is, I think, 67 years old. He's getting up there. I was at a seminar. One of my Kung Fu brothers, his name's Tai. He's an ex-Navy, semi-pro boxer. His biceps are as big as my thighs. And they got up in front of the class, and the subject is what do you do against a boxer? Well, Tai has boxed for 20 years. And he says, okay, I want to show you. And when I first saw them standing next to each other, you got a 67-year-old man. You've got, I think he's probably 40-year-old now, semi-pro boxer, huge muscles, ripped, fast as hell, looks like Mike Tyson, boxes in a similar style. And I was like, this is a joke. There's no way in hell Samuel Kwok's going to even be able to stop this guy. Well, as soon as they started to actually exchange, instantly my incorrect perception changed. And he spars with Tai. Samuel Kwok loves to cross fight with other different fighting styles because he doesn't want to just do Wing Chun versus Wing Chun. He likes to test his stuff against boxers, wrestlers, whatever. And yeah, he instantly, Tai looked like a little kid and getting his ass beat by the 67-year-old man. And so it really, because I'm someone who's only ever trained Wing Chun, it's something that to me, I never was really from a young age involved in martial arts, and I was ignorant looking at it going, there's no way this is possible. And so that really has made me step back and think, okay, so do I want to train something that I can only train until I'm 30, 40, and then it becomes useless? Or do I want to train something that when I'm 67 years old, I mean, you go mess with Samuel Kwok, even though he's an old man, he'll end you. You'd be ended in seconds.
Yo, Robert, it's Samuel Kwon, you said?
Samuel Kwok, Kwok.
Okay,
yeah,
and then it's a demonstration with a boxer?
It was a class I was at. Yes, he's a boxer.
Okay, was it a video or like a live thing that you saw?
It was a live thing that I was at, yeah.
Oh, okay, I was gonna ask Jamie to pull up the video, but okay.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, he does other ones, and the thing that makes me mad about videos is you end up missing a ton of the context of the whole thing. And Samuel Kwok, he has schools in 29 countries, and there's millions of videos of him. And you watch a little 1 or 2 minute video, and you're like, oh, that'd never work in the street, whatever. I wanted to tell that. Then I'll just spend 2 more minutes, and then I'll stop. I'm hogging the time here. When I was out with Bradford, Jason Malik is highly skilled. That dude, I'm telling you, nobody will want to mess with Jason Malik. You punch him in the head, he smiles at you like you just gave him a bouquet of flowers. He loves it. Punch him hard, and it makes him giggle. And he has really high-level skills. He goes up with Bradford, Sifu Bradford. Sifu Bradford makes him look like it was his day one. If you just saw that video of them sparring, you would be like, that Bradford guy isn't good. That guy doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's an amateur, but he's not, and I know better. Well, then I ended up, Bradford showed me a video of him training with his Sifu. I saw the video of him training with his Sifu. If you didn't know Bradford, you didn't know that he's been training for 20, 30 years and destroys high-level people like Jason Malik. You just see this video, and his
What's
Sifu,
the name of this video?
It was a private video he showed me. It's not, he showed me it on his phone. I don't know. He didn't send me a link. We were just sitting there chatting. But his Sifu is trained directly under Lung Ting. He's I can't remember his name at the moment. I'll have to look. But when they were exchanging, he made Bradford look like this little beginner, like it was his day one. And if you had seen that video and didn't know that Bradford was super high level, you would think that guy beating his ass wasn't really anybody special, because you don't know the context. You don't know the proficiency of the guy he's beating up. And so when you're sitting there as on Facebook watching these martial arts videos, you really need to, when you go, oh, that was garbage. That guy didn't know what he was doing. I would have done this or that. You really need to remember that you may not know who he's manhandling, like an amateur, and what they know, because it has to make me stop and rethink a lot of things I've seen.
That's a really great point. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was really
All right,
good.
so we're dragging it on a bit too much. So how about we end it with Bruce Lee quote right here.
Go
Be
for it.
water, my friend. Be water.
When you put a cat in a cup, it becomes the cup. If you grab the cat and put him in a box, he becomes the box. Be like
That
a
killed
cat,
me.
my friend.
It made me think of my cat. He'll try and fit into any box. You can open a soda box and he'll be in there.
That reminded me of, can I, not a Rory quote, but paraphrase Rory in something? Again, a women's self-defense thing, that women thinking that we're too small, too weak, we can't fight, but we actually can, right? We're actually really good at it. And he was training with a very small woman who didn't believe that she could fight. And, there's no way, she was saying there's no way I can, beat that big man. And he said, okay, so let's say that there's a man holding a cat, a grown man holding an 8-pound cat, and he can control the cat. Now let's say I splash water on that cat. What's going to happen? The cat's going to trash the man, right? There's no way the man is going to be able to hold on to even an 8-pound cat who's outraged and furious and scared that it's just got splashed with water. Cats hate water. And the cat is going to struggle and bite and scratch and scream until the cat gets loose. The man is going to lose. So he said to her, so you think you can't do what that 8-pound cat can do? You're a grown woman. Go fight that guy. And she did. So it's all a matter of that mentality. Bring this back to the street fighting. This isn't a contest to see who's the better fighter. This is you're getting away and you're doing whatever it takes. You're having that predator mentality to get away from your attacker. That person had the misfortune of choosing you as a victim. That person, if you're alone in a room with a guy, he's alone with you. Pity him. That he's alone with you. You're not alone with him, he's alone with you, and you're going to get him.
Yep. Keep up that predator mentality, everybody. Get to the chopper. If he bleeds, you can kill it. We're out.
Thank you, guys. That was great.
Thank you, everybody.
It was really great to talk about all this. I personally learned a lot today, and it was good.
And this concludes the very first episode of the Way of the Other Dragons podcast. I hope you have had a good time with us and join us next time. See you soon.